Jimmie Johnson is now a NASCAR team owner, according to a recent report. Who had this on their 2023 bingo card? So we are going to talk about this developing story broken by Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic and its implications on both NASCAR and any Indy 500 plans Jimmie Johnson might have had in this video. It's going to be stacked. It's going to be packed. Can't wait for you guys to discuss this with me because, man, this was unexpected. But first, if you have not already, go down below and hit the subscribe button. That's the best way to tell YouTube you want more of my content. I try to be on top of all the happenings in motorsport, and I think this is one of the best places on the web to listen to motorsport content and watch it too. Hey, we're a visual medium. All right, so since you've subscribed, let's talk about this tweet from Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic that broke just about an hour and a half ago. And Jordan says that Jimmie Johnson is finalizing a deal to obtain an ownership stake within the Petty GMS organization starting in 2023. Johnson will also drive in selected races for the team. An announcement is expected this week. This partnership, and I have no reason to believe that it is not true, will unite the two living 7-time NASCAR champions under one roof, and also now gives us some insight into what Jimmie Johnson's retirement will truly look like. And like I said at the top, unexpected, because I was under the impression, it seems like a lot of other people were under the impression, that Jimmie Johnson did not want to be a car owner. I thought he was pretty happy being a driver. That's the impression that I got, especially because on the IndyCar circuit, I've interviewed him a whole lot. Now, I've never asked him about team ownership because, frankly, I never thought it would be a thing that would ever come up. But one of the things that Jimmie always answered when I asked him questions about, how are you doing, how you feeling, it was always, oh, I'm just living the dream. I'm so happy. I'm happy to be here. I'm doing what I want to do. And so with a guy who's that happy to be a driver, now suddenly transitioning to be a team owner, that's something that I'm very curious to hear when this is officially announced, what Jimmie's thought process is behind this move. I think it's very, very interesting to see that Jimmie and Richard Petty are going to be on the ownership side of a team, the same ownership side of the team. But I think there's a lot of implications here throughout the sport. I think first we need to talk about NASCAR, obviously, because this is Jimmie Johnson buying into a NASCAR team. I think there's obviously Hendrick Motorsport ties here. I'd be very surprised if there aren't. Not only is Jimmie Johnson the type of driver that a Rick Hendrick tends to follow around, you've got the Chevy connection. When Jimmie has gone places other than cars that are powered by Hondas, particularly on the IMSA side with Cadillac, Hendrick Motorsports was a part owner in that operation. And while they can't buy into Petty GMS, so to speak, I think this is a great way to essentially do a de facto 6-car team in NASCAR. It's kind of similar to what 2311 is doing with Joe Gibbs Racing, in my opinion. So Jimmie goes in as the figurehead owner of the team, kind of like what Denny Hamlin is doing. And ultimately, all the technical data gets shared with Rick Hendrick that comes from Petty GMS. And then Petty GMS benefits as well from rising up and getting all of that precious, precious data. With a spec car, which NASCAR now runs, it's kind of now the IndyCar model. The more cars that you can run, the more data that you can generate, the better and more advantageous advantage you're going to have over your opponents. And especially in the early days of this car, I think that will pay dividends. And I think also we need to point out that Noah Gragson is going over to Petty GMS next year. He's kind of a Hendrick Motorsports stable driver. He was over at Junior Motorsports, and obviously he has filled in for Alex Bowman during the length of his concussion. Now, of course, Alex Bowman back in the seat at Phoenix, so Gragson services are no longer required. But I think it says something that Gragson was the first one that Rick Hendrick called. And so Gragson ending up in the Cup Series, and now all of a sudden Jimmie Johnson's coming in as a team owner at Noah Gragson's team. I think we need to look at that and say, aha, there we go. So my read on the situation in terms of NASCAR implications is that this has got Hendrick Motorsports written all over it. I think Hendrick Motorsports is going to have a major technical alliance with Petty GMS, and I think it will benefit both teams, as if Hendrick Motorsports needed to benefit anymore from anything. But we'll have to see how involved Jimmie is. That's the other thing I'm kind of wondering. Is he going to be more of a silent partner? How active is he going to be? But I think the biggest and most interesting thing from Jimmie Johnson's side of this partnership is the fact that Jimmie's actually going to drive NASCAR races next year. Now, we found out when Jimmie announced that he would no longer be competing full-time in IndyCar, which he did this year, 2022, that he wanted to do a bucket list tour. And most of us assumed that that would include the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indy 500, probably some IndyCar oval races, and probably some NASCAR Cup Series races. But we weren't exactly sure how that was all going to shake out. Well, I think things are about to be a lot more clear about exactly what Jimmie Johnson is going to do in 2023. It's probably all going to come out this week, to be frank and honest with you. And I also wonder, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later in this video, what the Indy 500 implications are going to be with this move. So we know that Carvana is willing to stay with Jimmie Johnson no matter what he does. So whatever this effort is, it's probably going to have a Carvana sticker on the side of it. What NASCAR races do we think Jimmie Johnson is going to do? And by the way, that's a solicitation for comments. Tell me what you think Jimmie Johnson's going to do. I've got a list that I think he's going to try to compete in. I think the Daytona 500 is one, although I question whether or not he wants to run a plate race or a super speedway race, whatever we're going to call it now. That would certainly be the type of race that a sponsor would want him to be in. That's the type of race that I think the team would want him in. I think that's the type of race that NASCAR would want him in. You want Jimmie Johnson to show up at high-profile events to raise the profile of those events even further. I wonder if that would also include North Wilkesboro. Now, I don't know what Jimmie's all-star race eligibility would be, though I suspect if Jimmie wants to run it, chances are NASCAR is going to let Jimmie Johnson run it, let's be honest. And ditto goes for the Clash. I think Jimmie Johnson might want to do the Clash. That would seem like a big event. Jimmie's a California guy. He loved going to Long Beach when he was running IndyCars full-time. So I think that Jimmie Johnson would make sense at the Clash. And finally, the obvious one, and the one that I think a lot of people think is going to happen, is the Coke 600, so he can run the double, the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 in the same day. And he potentially would be qualifying if he ran North Wilkesboro for the Indy 500 and then going over to run the All-Star race. But that would be a crazy month of May if Jimmie Johnson's thinking about doing all that. So let's talk a little bit about the month of May, I guess, because it's me. I think a lot of people thought, and I think it had been rumored for a while, that it would be Trackhouse that would be partnering with Chip Ganassi Racing to run Jimmie Johnson at the Indy 500. Now, obviously, there's a bit of a wrench in that idea, because if Jimmie Johnson is running the Indy 500, it's probably not partnering with another NASCAR team. But I'm happy to be proven wrong, too, now that I'm thinking about it, because Chip Ganassi technically was a NASCAR team for a little while. I think a lot of people are going to have questions, especially with the Indy 500 too, and seeing the only team that really would make a lot of sense for Jimmie to go to would be Chip Ganassi. He's obviously a Chevy guy in NASCAR now, being a team owner with Petty GMS. I don't think it totally disqualifies him from running the Indy 500 in a Honda, but it might complicate things a little bit. So I'm beginning to question just a little bit that Indy 500 run. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm proven wrong when they announce this, because I know somebody's going to ask in the press conference, what are you doing for the Indy 500, Jimmie? So we'll see. But I think the best case scenario is Jimmie Johnson maybe runs the famous Petty 43 that we saw John Andretti run a couple of times at the Indy 500. Maybe you throw Petty Blue and Dayglow Orange on it, and maybe he gets STP to sponsor an Indy 500 run. Would that be cool? No, it would be Carvana, almost certainly, but a boy can dream, can't he? So I think as we get more details, this is going to be a major, major developing story. This is about as big of a bombshell or a landmine. Well, it's not technically a landmine. I didn't break it. So it's a bombshell. It's definitely a bombshell because this is the kind of thing that I don't think we really expected to happen, but now we're living in this reality. So enjoy it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Many more videos to come, and I'll see you in the next video.